Today we're talking about what? Imposter syndrome. Isn't that so fitting for our first episode?
Very,
Very,
very fitting. Hello world, how are y'all doing? Welcome to the Wellness Kickback, where we are here to unpack, unlearn, and relearn with intention. We are your hosts, Frances
and Ivory
with I Am Fire. Y'all,
this is officially episode 1.
It is officially episode 1. We did kind of do a brief one, which y'all see, but this is the official.
This is
number
one. So welcome to the Wellness Kickback, you guys. Today we're talking about what? Imposter syndrome. Isn't that so fitting for our first episode?
Very, very fitting. Like for this exact moment fitting, and it's especially in the beginning of the year, it's best that we address those things now.
Mm-hmm.
It is best that we address those now because we don't need imposter syndrome to hold us back. It is 2023. There's a lot that needs to be done this year, a lot that will be done this year. Mm-hmm. And we don't need our heads to hold us back from that.
Listen,
but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that.
Speaking of our heads, let's do a quick energy feel, heart feel. So we'll be doing this every video. We're going to ask each other how our hearts are feeling, just so that you guys can, get comfortable with us. You guys are on this journey with us. So we want to include you on this as well. So we have this question: how does your heart feel? What color is your heart feeling like today? And so we have a couple of different colors. You want to explain the colors?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we have purple,
mm-hmm.
which is more of that, that godly, blissful, blessed, nothing can really stop me in how I'm feeling right now.
I'm in alignment.
I'm in alignment. Yes. So that's purple. We have blue, where you feel sad. If you just legit feel sad, that's okay. It's owning how you feel. And that's the thing with the heart readings. We want to own where we are, so that way we know how to get to where we need to get to. Okay, come on, friend. Hey, friend. So we can get to where we need to get to. So with blue being sad, that just is what it is. I'm not in the best space right now. Something has upset me. We have yellow, which is, just energy, which is light, which is content. I'm feeling peaceful. I'm feeling just really good with self in this moment. I know it kind of coincides with purple a little bit, mm-hmm. but it's more of I'm content, mm-hmm. I'm good, and I'm peaceful in this moment.
I'm here in this moment.
Yeah, but the purple is just hey,
listen,
baby, we on top of the world.
I'm attracting all the good.
Come on, yes. Mm-hmm. And then we have red. Red is fiery. Red is angry. Red is passionate, and not necessarily always angry, but I'm passionate. Yeah. I'm feeling fiery inside, and I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, people. I ain't gonna lie. I'm feeling red. I'm feeling very red right now.
Tell us what's going on.
Just long story short, I will share, because it's also a sharing where y'all need to be mindful too, But today, unfortunately, we had a bout where, the scammers kind of caught up. The scammers kind of caught up to us. They were scamming and working overtime today. Long story short, the calls came in with my father, and and I think that's their goal. That's their target audience is our elderly. So please be mindful for your elderly loved ones that are out there, that they are not being duped and scammed by these callers that are out there. But unfortunately, they did get my father today. And I had to put that fire out. So I'm very angry.
Listen, aren't y'all tired of them calling about your Microsoft account?
Don't trigger me.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Your extended warranty on your car. Anyways.
Or that, we need to help you with your Medicare. We good.
We're good.
We're good. So yeah.
Get a real job.
Come on now. 3 hours? 3 hours on the phone with it was overtime.
All right. We're going. Sorry. As we digress.
Yes. How are you feeling?
So I would say that my heart is feeling very yellow right now. Okay. I am here. I am showing up. I'm feeling content. Yeah. I wouldn't say that I'm purple. I'm not of course, I feel like I'm always in alignment in some sort of fashion. However, I feel like right now, my chakras are a little blocked. I'm not quite.
Come on, plant.
Okay. Me and this plant gonna fight before the night is over. But yeah, like I'm feeling very content. I'm feeling very happy. I'm here. There are some things that I need to work on, and I'm a little bit in my head, but other than that, I'm still in the up and up. So
I like it.
yeah,
I like it. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all need to be there. I mean, it's one of those ideal places that, we always want to be at, but it's okay to own when we're not,
Yeah.
That's my goal for tomorrow, y'all. Yellow.
So we are going to talk about imposter syndrome today. And y'all see, I got some notes right here. Yes, baby, we did our research. We are expert on this topic as of today. So we are going to not only unpack imposter syndrome, we are going to unlearn some things, and then we're going to relearn some things about imposter syndrome. So make sure you guys stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode, because we have some great techniques, tips on how to fight imposter syndrome. Yes. Okay. So what is imposter syndrome? I feel like so many people have heard this term and it's like imposter syndrome. I just feel like I'm an imposter. But what exactly is imposter syndrome?
So I guess from a definition standpoint, it's more of like perceived fraudulence. Yeah. It's what we're thinking in our head that we are not truly capable of or actually doing. Mm-hmm. I guess, just, from my own personal, I guess, definition of it, it's just like, or just a kind of an example, like, all right, I'm a loctician. I've been doing hair for almost 10 years now, mm-hmm. Part-time and now full-time, and about to have my own suite, but in my mind, I'm like, but am I really capable? Like, am I really a loctician? Am I really out here helping people like with their hair? Am I really suitable to have this own space? Like those are real true feelings that I'm having right now. But
even though you've been in the game for over 10 years.
But I'm still questioning myself.
Yeah, you're still questioning. Can you see how that's really it's a self-perpetuated feeling, right? You're really telling yourself or doubting yourself, even though you've been in the game for over 10 years.
But it's like, but am I really like, and it, I guess not to jump, but I think one of the factors with it is just like that comparison. Yeah. It's that comparing, like, okay, there's other people who have, businesses that are, very, like they have large businesses, large followings, making buku money with it, and it's just like, or even from a licensure standpoint, mm-hmm. And it's just like, well, some of those things I'm not there. Right. So am I really equipped to like have my own space? Am I really equipped to be considered a loctician? So like comparison is one of the biggest factors when it comes down to imposter syndrome, because like we do compare ourselves to other people. Yeah. But I know, like, it's one of those things where we don't feel like imposter syndrome is a relatable thing or is a common thing, but it's more relatable and common than we know.
Speaking of, let me read you some of these statistics that I found. All right, so first of all, it says 9% to 82% of people experience imposter syndrome. So when we first read that, it was like, what? That means like hardly nobody to almost everybody experiences imposter syndrome, right? But it's more specific, saying 9% to 82% of people experience imposter syndrome. More people experience it for a limited time. So that 82% of people experience it for a limited time. So if you don't feel like you experience imposter syndrome, think of a time where you have like started a new job or you started a new experience or something like that. And in that first few moments, mm-hmm. you may have felt mm-hmm. that imposter syndrome because you felt like you weren't prepared mm-hmm. or mm-hmm. you didn't have all the knowledge or mm-hmm. whatever the case may be. Right. So that's one statistic of imposter syndrome, right? Let me slow down because I feel like, I'm talking too fast and I want to get all this information out. Y'all ain't going nowhere. Y'all gonna be with us, and that's a part of the imposter syndrome for me, because sometimes I feel like I'm not qualified to speak to you guys, but I'm in my own head and I need to sit my ass back a little bit, right?
She got words.
I got words.
And she's trying to use them.
And I'm trying to use them.
That's all.
And I need to slow down so that y'all can get this information. Okay. All right. So 9 to 82% of people experience imposter syndrome, right? Women experience imposter syndrome more than men, specifically women of color. All right. So 80% of men experience imposter syndrome. 90% of women experience imposter syndrome. and only 25% of these people are aware of it. So you could be experiencing imposter syndrome and don't even know it.
To add up to that, in terms of like not, because I feel like we were saying before, everybody has like those tendencies to have that experience. I was at my dentist appointment this morning, and they were like, I was telling him about that we're doing the podcast and the topic, and he was just like, well, what is it? To be honest with you, I'm sure that he has experienced it many times in his life, especially as a dentist, or just as a doctor, achieving something high, to that standard, but him not even realizing or even knowing. And that's where it comes down to. Was it the 25% of people are only aware of it? So it's just like, that's what we are here for now, is to put that awareness out there to what it is. So that way, like, okay, I have these feelings and I have these thoughts that I'm not doing well or I'm not capable, but you need to know what it is or why you're feeling that way,
Yeah.
So
that's a really good point. And so we, of course, are advocates in the wellness industry, right? We advocate for Black and brown women, Black and brown people, but we do definitely target Black and brown women, right? So imposter syndrome, it definitely affects Black women way more than it does any other demographic, right? You were saying earlier, you listened to, what was it, a podcast or something about Michelle Obama, and she was talking about being the only Black person at the table, and she's feeling like, do I belong here? And then it's kind of like, yes, I belong here. Do you belong here? So Black women feel it more than any other demographic.
We're not deemed to be in some of those spaces. Like we're not deemed to be the one to be here to even educate, or provide information about this, because we don't know anything about that. It's supposed to be more of that Eurocentric view that they know all kind of viewpoint on it. So it does hinder, I feel like, the Black woman a bit more, because it's like, well, I do know this, but am I qualified? Am I qualified to share this information? Imposter syndrome from a relatable standpoint, like, when we wanted to do this podcast and we have conversations together, about a lot of different topics, where in which, it's enlightening for the both of us and others, but, kind of creeping up to the podcast is like, well, wait, am I qualified to even express this information? But I am, I have the ability to share this information. So I'm just as qualified as long as we're coming to you with the correct information. And that comes down to just research, and by all means, you're doing the research as well, too, because we, at least, if anything, we want to bring that awareness to you all.
Exactly.
So as for women of color, though, I think because, they are the most underrepresented,
Definitely.
individual within society. So yeah, we have that harder time.
And it goes back to that microaggressions. It's really like being in a room with I'm just gonna call it what it is, being in a room with white people, and they're little talks. You hear little talks, and we're always the group of people who have to overachieve or overdo things to show up and be present, or just we have to be the ones to do more, right? To be acknowledged, right? And
what do they say? It's like we have to work 10 times harder than what our Eurocentric, I love that term now, what our Eurocentric counterparts, are doing. We have to go above and beyond just to get at level with them.
And then it's like, when we feel like we don't want to do that, we feel like we want to just be exactly that's where that imposter syndrome can creep in, because it's like, I don't want to do any more than what she's doing with, I'm not going to say Becky or Karen, but I don't want to do any more than what they're doing, because I'm not getting paid anymore. But then it's like that microaggression, that small talk that we hear in the office, that small talk that we hear around the office and around, the building, those feelings can creep up from that.
And
so that's that indirect discrimination, right? So let's talk about, so there's actually 5 types of imposter syndrome, right? So we just hear the word imposter syndrome or the term, and we just think that it's the inadequacies or the perceived fraudulence, right? Or the feeling of inadequacies. But there's actually 5 types of imposter syndrome. All right, so I'm going to talk about them. And of course, I'm going to read them because I don't know them all by heart. So the first one we have is the perfectionist, right? The perfectionist aims to get perfection in every aspect of their lives. Small mistakes make them feel like a failure.
So it's like, so the perfectionist, you said aiming to get perfection in every aspect of your life, and the small mistakes feeling like a failure.
Yep. I feel like I'm a perfectionist. And those small mistakes does feel like a failure because it's like, I know I can do better. I know I could have done better. I know my level of success. I know my level of,
So were you that one where like you got a 95 or you got that 90? He's like, I knew or you got like a 93. And I was like on the brink of that.
Not necessarily in school because school came very easily to me.
Okay.
So when I didn't get good grades, we're not even going to talk about school, to be honest. Okay. It comes more to like me doing projects, like creative projects and things like that. Like I have to be, before I put it out, it has to be perfect. Yeah. And if I see like a misspelled word in something, I'm like, oh, y'all are going to see that and y'all are going to realize that so I feel like I'm a perfectionist in that sense.
And I can see how, like, when it comes down to the perfectionist, because like for me, like I would like when I was in school and I would like write papers, it would be hard for me to get like just write the paper down, because you know how they usually say just write it out and then go back and fix the grammar, like fix the like edit it and things of that nature. I would edit as I go. So I'm just like, let's not be perfect in this moment. Let's just go through it and then go back. Yeah. So I feel like when it comes down,
that's pretty cool. It's two different versions of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
So the second one is a natural genius. Natural genius uses talents to get through life, but they feel embarrassed by any small mistakes or stumbling block. So I think that's for how I was in school. That's also an imposter syndrome that just crept up, that intrusive thought, because I was like, am I really a genius? But a natural genius. So school did come easily to me. And then, that feeling embarrassed by any small mistakes or stumbling blocks. So yeah, I would feel embarrassed if something, if I didn't get a good grade and my friends were getting good grades, like that's embarrassing because school comes naturally to me. I didn't have to study. I wasn't a good test taker, but I was able to grasp information very easily. So yeah. The third one, a rugged soloist aims to achieve success independently, relying on other people fuels feeling of inadequacy and self-loathing. So they are like by themselves, I do it all, I can do this by myself. And if I have to ask for help, I'm a fraud.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of resonate. That one resonates with me. Yeah, and I'm learning in this moment that I need to allow people to show up for me. It's okay to ask for help. Yeah. And I'm in that season where let me ask for help because I can't do it all by myself. Yeah.
Asking for help doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that you need help. Everybody needs help. I truly believe that we're put on this earth with other people because we need other people.
Absolutely.
So yeah, absolutely. The expert relies on unmatched knowledge based on their studies, and failure of details make them feel like fraud and will fuel guilt.
I ain't gonna lie. Like, and like I said, you can't, we all have like tendencies to, to tap into some of these different types. But I will say, like, right here, right now, I felt like, because if we didn't have the details on what imposter syndrome was, like this whole podcast was just gonna be fraudulent, So
that's why I started by saying we are the expert in this because we have done the research. And that's why she really says, do your own research. Like it is very imperative that you do your own research. And that's with anything in life, because there's so much misinformation going out right now about everything. And just doing your research and use more than one resource.
That part.
Right?
Use actual credible sources, because and let's not get it twisted. I'll go to the TikTok, and see what people are saying, but then let me go to a credible source to get the details, so definitely still do your research, but just be mindful. There's a lot of opinions out there too that are coming off as information and resource or that people are utilizing. So, but yeah, just being an expert, feeling like, just making sure that the knowledge that you have is correct, so But sometimes it's okay if we're not necessarily correct. It's just about making sure that you're going to the proper place to get it.
It's a learning experience.
It's a learning experience.
We're not all perfect.
Boom.
Actually, we are perfect because God didn't make mistakes. But that's another conversation for another podcast. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's always a learning experience,
Absolutely.
Right? And then the last one, the superhero. The superhero aims to never stop and pushes themselves to the limit. That may seem like not enough in the long run if they don't stay consistent. I think this one is me. Like she said, a lot of these can resonate with you. I feel like this one is definitely really resonating with me as I read it again. Yeah. Aims to never stop and pushes themselves to the limit, and they may seem like not enough in the long run.
How does that resonate?
If they don't stay consistent. Because so for my word of 2023 is consistency. And I feel like when I'm not consistent, I feel like I'm giving up or I'm letting myself down. And it's like, I know that there's so much stuff that I need to do and I don't know how to give myself grace. I just feel like I'm not motivated right now because I'm not being consistent, and consistency for me creates motivation
and productivity.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. I feel you on that one. I feel on that one. It's okay. We can't do all. I mean, we can do all. We can, but we can't put too much pressure on ourselves to do all.
What are some things that cause imposter syndrome? So definitely like pressure. So I definitely believe a lot of things are personality traits, right? Of course, me being an astrologer, I feel like, you know, the time we were born and all of these things, the energies, they create personality traits, right? So definitely there's personality traits, but I also believe that a lot of stuff stems from your childhood. So it can definitely be like pressure from your parents to be that perfectionist or to succeed or to perform. Yeah. That's definitely, that's one of the biggest causes of imposter syndrome, I think, is from that childhood. Trying to fit in and create a space for yourself, and make sure that you belong wherever you are in that space.
That just to kind of piggyback on that, like, and I'm not to go into depth about it, but understanding that a lot of things do stem from childhood. A lot of things do stem from experience, you know, and understanding that certain things that do occur, that do happen in our childhood, that sticks with us and that we don't process, you know, through, because we don't know how to process them, you know. So just also remember in this process of really learning more about yourself, tapping into your childhood and some of those experiences, and how that follows you into adulthood, is a big piece, or a very valuable piece to understanding imposter syndrome within self. Yes, I just want to put that out there for y'all, because I was sitting here doing my research and just really trying to learn more about imposter syndrome. And I was just like, wow, a lot of the things that I feel that I'm going through do stem from my childhood. And I'm just like, dang, it's a little heavy and a little hard to have to unpack those things, you know? So yeah.
Definitely. I think another cause of imposter syndrome is like that society biases. Again, like we were talking about with Black women, you know, those subtle discriminations, you know, being compared to other races, other gender. I definitely feel like that's a big cause of imposter syndrome. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm just like sitting here thinking about it because, like, as a Black woman, you are being compared to the white woman. You are also then, you know, trying to, you know, because we have the capability of working just as hard as the white man, you know. But then it's just like, you don't want to, I mean, and I don't know how this kind of applies, but I'm just kind of processing it in my head right now. But then how you don't want to also demean your Black brother as well, you know. So it's just like that, and it's again, all boils down to the whole comparison aspect of it, you know. I feel like we compare ourselves to a lot, and as Black women, we compare ourselves to a lot of different aspects of people, where in which we just need to really just sit down with ourselves
and just be,
you know. But those,
That's funny you say that. That just reminded me, and before I'm not going to get too much off topic, but so my sister's in education, and she's been in education for 15 plus years, right? Yes,
okay, you better
15 plus
teach.
years. She's been in education for a long time, and so she's very qualified for. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to teach. She knows how to learn. She knows the education system, right? And so in one of her environments that she was in, it was a group of Black women, right? And she's still very close with these women. So I think it was about 4 of them. And these Black women, they were singled out because they were strong in what they knew. They had experience. They were educated, but there was talk around the school that they're bullies. That's that indirect discrimination. White women were feeling, you guys are hurting my feelings. All of that can create imposter syndrome in all these 4 Black women. But no, they were strong. They were like, no, y'all ain't gonna do that to us, right? We know what we're talking about. So that's really, we're gonna talk about that in that relearning aspect of how you can fight imposter syndrome. But just little stuff like that can really cause doubt in your mind. Like, do I really belong? Like, are we really bullies? Like, are we really,
because it's like, can you, man,
y'all know what y'all doing.
Right. Because it's just like, or like certain situations where it's like, am I wrong for saying no? Because then I get backlash for saying no and standing up for myself. But then it's just like, but then I'm considered rude or I'm wrong. And it's just like, dang, well, where do I stand? And that's when you get confused. That's where it's just like, anyway. So but the whole societal biases, that's a big thing, because like we're in this world where we're supposed to look at things in a way where this is how it's supposed to be done. But is it really? Yeah. So how do we unlearn?
All right, so we learned what it is. We done unpack imposter syndrome, right?
So how am I supposed to get it out of my head that these are not okay?
All right, so
these viewpoints.
So of course I have to read these things. Frances has done a great job at memorizing some stuff, but I'm a reader.
That's just the fraud in me. Let me stop now. See, it's not the fraud in me. It's because I not to say that I know, but
everybody has their strengths. And that's also, we'll talk about that in the relearning, but learn your strengths. Stay in your lane. I love to stay in your lane. But so it's something to unlearn about imposter syndrome. So working harder to prove your success, like working harder does not correct imposter syndrome. All it's going to do is create burnout. It's going to cause a drop in your performance, anxiety, low self-esteem
that can then lead to depression.
Definitely.
And that's going to just, and I feel like that's just like, that's the way that imposter syndrome can really take you down.
Yeah.
Because
we feel like we're in our head and we have to do this. Like, I think that goes back to that superhero or that perfectionist. Like, I know that I can do better. So let me work harder and prove to myself and prove to everybody else that I belong in this space. Not realizing that I actually already belong in this space because I'm here, number one. And number two, if I just continue to, what would you say about the Black woman when we do too much just to perform, when we overperform just to be at the same level, that causes burnout. We don't have to do that. We belong in spaces.
We belong in spaces. Can you say that again? We belong in spaces.
We belong in spaces.
I had to say that for people back. I need you to hear that. I need you to know that as much as I need to know that for myself. Right? But and honestly, just to put this out there, when I say things with passion, it ain't just for you, it's for me too. Okay.
It's for me too, because I'm listening. Okay. But yeah, so working hard, that's not how you fix imposter syndrome. Another thing to unlearn, imposter syndrome is not the same as low self-esteem. Low self-esteem is really like judging yourself. That's that self-talk that you have in your head. Like, am I
like you're questioning things, like,
yeah.
am I fully really capable? Or I'm not, like, that's judging yourself.
That's judging
You're
yourself.
not necessarily judging yourself.
Imposter syndrome is really feeling like you are a fraud. Like, what's in it? Like you said before, what was the example? Or for instance, for this podcast, like you were saying before, it's really feeling like, do we have the information? It's low self-esteem with us not getting on camera. Like, we don't belong on camera. No. I'm going to continue to judge myself. When we replay this, we're going to look at it and be like, no, we're not putting this out. This is not good quality work. That's low self-esteem. But imposter syndrome is really us getting on here saying, we don't know what we're talking about.
We're not capable of being able to educate you all on, or just not educate, provide awareness. We're not credible sources for that, but to be honest with you, we're the most credible sources, because in this moment I'm having imposter syndrome, but I am aware of
and
that.
You did the research.
And we did the research. I am aware, we did the research, and I am helping others as well because of my own experiences. Again, like my like legit experience right now about imposter syndrome is me getting my own space, my own hair studio.
That was the example you used earlier. I was trying to remember the example you used.
Yeah, but like me, like actually, like, within February, being able to work in my own space, but I don't feel like I belong in that space. I feel like I need to stay, and be amongst other people to, like, really kind of help build up more of what I'm capable of doing. But I've been doing this for going on 10 years now, like and like even providing like information and like just the resources or knowledge behind, like, what sister locks and micro locks and what interlocks are. But like, I've had mine for 10 years now. I have 10 years of experience. So I do have the credible knowledge to provide to people and be able to provide, and at the end of the day, we are learning every day. We are ever evolving in terms of knowledge. So like, that's what we also need to be mindful of. Like, we don't know all, but as long as we are putting the energy in to do the research and learn and continue learning, that gives us the, like, even more capability, credibility to be able to provide to people. So like, if anything, like, yeah, I don't feel like I belong in this space, but I'm going to fight that thought. It's a thought. It's not necessarily valid, but I'm going to be aware that it is a thought and an invalid thought, and fight that thought with, no, I do belong. Why? Because I have the experience, I have the knowledge, and I have the ability to help others with it.
That was beautifully said. I think that leads us right into relearning. Like, how do you fight imposter syndrome? So you said, I fight those thoughts, right? But how do you fight those thoughts, right? I think first and foremost, it's really just being aware. Going back to the statistic, only 25% of people are even aware that they are feeling imposter syndrome, right? It's really being aware. We talk a lot about awareness. That's really sitting with yourself. That's understanding the emotions and the feelings that you're going through. If you're in a room and you feel like you don't belong, question yourself, like, why? Why do I feel like I don't belong?
Stop yourself in that moment. Like, okay, another example. We had an event last year, our Wellness Kickback that we had, and I felt like, it wasn't what it was about. It wasn't what it was, and I just had all these thoughts of, like, even though it was a successful event, it was a beautiful, successful event, but literally I went home like, we didn't do good, and into the next morning, I'm just like, why? I stopped myself. I stopped myself in that moment and said, okay, why was it not good? Changed my whole thought process on it. It was a beautiful event, but I had to, where I started was, it was the awareness that, okay, I'm second guessing this beautiful event. Why? I questioned it.
Why?
So,
and then, so I did right here. So, about relearning, imposter syndrome. So we always, when we talk about imposter syndrome, we talk about it as it being something negative, right? I think that's perception. You know, everything is about perception to me. So imposter syndrome could actually be a good weakness. You have bad weaknesses, good weaknesses. So it can be a good weakness in that it reminds you of your ability to perform. So you know what you're capable of, right? You are aware that you can improve. So having imposter syndrome and being aware of it, it just gives you that momentum or that understanding that you can improve. What areas do you need to improve in?
Right.
And it reminds you that you have the ability to perform. You're there for a reason, right? People don't hire you just because, like, we can fudge a resume, but you can't fudge a resume so much that you don't know anything, right? You have gone through that door for a reason, right? So it can be a good weakness.
Yeah. She said what she said.
So let's talk about ways to fight. So we were talking about ways to fight imposter syndrome, right? So of course, first is that awareness, acknowledging your feelings, measure your success. I feel like this is a really good one. Measure your success. Where were you when you first started versus where you are now? Okay. Celebrate your success. Celebrate your wins, right? Don't just so I did a successfully speaking masterclass where I was learning how to be a public speaker. And one of the things that she kept saying was, we're not going to talk about what you didn't do. We're going to talk about what you did do. So often do we first criticize ourselves. So often do we stop and finish doing whatever it is we're doing and like, oh, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Don't do that. Start with your wins. Celebrate your wins.
Celebrate your wins. Identify the wins. That will carry you through to let you know that, okay, I did something. At the end of the day, it's about doing and not doing. But the fact that you did do something, okay. Then if we want to go back and, constructively, critique what it is that we did and how we can do better, okay. But be aware that you did it. You showed up.
You showed up and you did the thing. And so what did you do right? Even if it's something small, what did you do right? Measure your success, right?
I guess just to even like kind of add to that, just to kind of give an example, it's funny. I was talking to my life coach today and, like I said, about to have, my own hair studio. And it was funny because, I have the name to my business, Firelocks, and created for more of like a business tax purpose type of thing, and, while I was talking to her within the year, going like a year ago, she would always just say, okay, what about Firelocks? How's Firelocks? How's Firelocks? And I'm like, why are we, identifying it as it's just a name for my business. It's just a name so that way I can, I can do my taxes around it. But to now say like that Firelocks is an actual establishment, like, so where I started it's just a name to now having a full blown like physical establishment, a suite, that lets you know that, okay, like I ain't no imposter out here. Like I have been able to grow from just the name for tax purposes to like a whole space. So it's
with
like
clientele.
With clientele.
You have clientele. Consistent clientele. So measure your success.
Measure your success.
Yeah. Challenging those doubts. What did you say before? You fight those intrusive thoughts. Fight those. Question yourself.
Talk to them.
Are you real? What this thought that's going through my mind? Is this a real thought? Like, how much weight does this hold? Right? It's literally asking yourself, like, do I belong in this space? Do I belong in this space? Yes, you belong in that space because you're there. You're always right where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
That's a word, right?
She just said what she said.
You're always right where you're supposed to be. We're right here where we're supposed to be. We have prepared for this. Y'all don't know the back history of us preparing to do this podcast. We have done lives. You don't know where we first started, our first live to where we are now, and how more comfortable we are getting the camera. But when we first started our lives, you should have seen the anxiety, the just all of the things. Like,
I had to use the bathroom. I was like, I'm not ready. Let me go use the bathroom. Now today it's just like, okay, you ready, girl?
yeah,
Let's get this done. You know,
we're here in front of
I mean, even before we had even created I Am Fire, there was preparation for us to get to this moment.
Yep.
We've had experiences in life that have prepared us for this moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another way to fight it is, and I think this is a very good one for especially Black women. Don't be afraid to call out the elephant in the room. Like, if you are hearing things or if you are seeing things, don't be afraid to speak up. Say what's on your mind.
Yeah.
Like, you deserve to speak. What did we say earlier? You deserve to be in that space. You deserve to have your voice heard.
Now, with that being said, because we can say all day, speak how you feel. It's always also too about your approach, so be mindful of that. Like, speak on the elephant in the room, but so that way, at the end of the day, people are going to just take it.
And that's where we are like yin and yang, because she was like, watch your approach. Go in there and tell her who you are.
And the thing is, that's like,
no, but yeah,
you have to pull
She's
from
right.
both of those, because you want people to receive you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want people to receive you, like, and not to say like you have to be on eggshells about how you approach it or how you address it, but you want to be received. So say it in a way that you would want to hear it. You don't want, like, if somebody comes at you and just like, you said this and you did that, like, I'm not going to receive that well, So, this was said. And I just want to address this because, it makes me feel a little uncomfortable, not to say you have to be all soft-hearted about it, but you want to do it. Yeah. It's just, or just being mindful. Be mindful about your approach, but speak on it.
And be assertive. Be assertive. Like, don't tiptoe around stuff.
Own it.
And if you have these feelings, own those feelings and address them. Be assertive with yourself, not only in spaces with other people, be assertive in your own life.
Yeah.
Own it.
Yeah.
And then
and have the ability to, like, want to keep learning. We may know things, but in order to, like, really fully be immersed in what it is that we know, like, keep learning more about it. Yeah. Like, I want to do more research on imposter syndrome, because I don't want to get to a point, because I can sit here and say, like, we've done our research, like, I know all about it. No, I don't. I want to continue to keep doing my research, because what does they say? Different levels, new levels, new devils. There's going to be other aspects of, like, where imposter syndrome is going to hit me. It's going to hit anybody in the place of growth. So continue to keep learning, so that way, once those moments come, you know how to combat it.
Exactly. That's a fact. Yeah. But I'm gonna pick my paper up because I dropped my paper.
Okay. Because we real over here.
Yeah. And then the last one. Look, I keep dropping my paper. The last one that I want to talk about. I think I got a paper cut.
Did you cut yourself?
I did. Like, I did something, and I think I got a paper cut. So it's all good. Avoid comparison. Avoid comparisons.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I'm gonna read what I put. Avoid comparisons by celebrating your success, and also celebrate other people's success. I think that's an important thing as well. I remember there was a time where I would be like, oh, I'm so happy for them. I can't wait for that to happen for me, right? You have to be able to celebrate other people's success without comparing it to your life.
Okay.
Because once you compare it to your life, you're not receiving your blessings, because you're blocking them. You're blocking them because you're only focused on what you do not have, right? So celebrate other people's success and celebrate your success. We already talked about measure your success, celebrate your success, but celebrate other people's success and avoid comparison. Stop comparing yourself. Stop looking on social media and seeing where other people are, because we already know social media is an illusion, right? We already know that. We can tell ourselves this all day and still get on social media and compare ourselves, right? Avoid that.
Avoid it. And like you're saying, when it comes down to comparison, don't compare yourself to other people. Only compare yourself to yesterday. Only compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Compete with yourself.
Compete with yourself. You want to do better, right?
Yeah.
That's the only comparison that you need to really, address.
I like that. Yeah.
So, and shoot, I like that too, girl. That hit differently for me just now. But I mean, that's the truth. Like, I'd rather not compare myself to somebody else out on the street and what they got going on, because that's their goal. Like, that's their mission. That's their achievement. I have my own achievements that I need to get at. And I have my own journey to get there. Everybody has their own journey. Like you said before, that, God made us, God is our higher source, universe, made us in their image of who we are supposed to be, if that makes sense. But so at the end of the day, it's like, we don't need to be like the person that's beside us. We need to be just like who we are.
Exactly.
And growing in that. So,
and we don't know their journey. Like you said, like we talked about before, y'all haven't seen our journey to get in this space right now. So we haven't seen their journey to get to where they are at that moment. Right. So you can't compare your lives. So yeah. So that's the relearning, like relearn how to attack imposter syndrome. It all goes back to that statistic of 8 or 9%?
Yeah, like 9 to 82.
82% of people have imposter syndrome, but it's really in that initial moments of starting something new. So again, it's that keep learning. And yeah, just
you're gonna always have new levels.
You're gonna always
have new levels. You're always gonna be learning. So just it's one of those things where just be more mindful and more aware of where you are in that moment. And it's okay. And sometimes, like, the elephant in the room is not necessarily with other people. It's the elephant in the room for yourself.
That part.
Because I mean, sometimes we can sit here and be like questioning, but like, okay, well, why? And like, am I trying to hide from the way that I'm feeling, or am I trying to not address the way that I'm feeling about something? No, don't knock it. Like, actually hone in on that a little bit more, because I mean, we're our own worst enemies. We truly are. And I feel like that's another thing where it just boils down to like imposter syndrome. We are our own worst enemies, and we will put ourselves down. Sometimes we want to project. Girl, we're about to go hit a whole nother
that's
topic.
a whole nother topic.
But
it's true. It's true. We are definitely our own worst enemies. We self-criticize sometimes way too much, and we need to let that go. But like she said before, constructive criticism is important, but also celebrate your success.
Celebrate them. And that's the thing. Celebrate your successes, which wherever, tick on the measurement tab. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but wherever you are on there, like, embrace that. Celebrate those moments, but then also, like, come back down to earth at times and really hone in on, okay, where do I need to improve? Not necessarily my weaknesses, but where do I need to improve? I mean, they are, but like, maybe if you had to reword it differently, so that way you can accept it differently. Like, but where do I need to improve? And it's okay to address those things and be aware of those things, because at the end of the day, that's where we want to do better in that comparison of self. So.
Yeah, that's imposter syndrome.
That was good.
Like,
it's one of those things where, like, and I'm glad that we started this podcast off with that, because again, like I was saying before, it's the beginning of the year. Like, we need to break down those areas in our lives that are holding us back. And imposter syndrome is one of those big things that will do that, and honey, we all have things that we need to accomplish. Okay. And nobody's trying to get held back by ourselves.
That part. And this plant needs to let me be great. Y'all done seen this plant keep hitting me in the head today.
Okay.
That's okay. We're gonna work it out.
Yeah, we're gonna work it
out. So yeah, that's imposter syndrome. Make sure you guys stick with us, because we are going to be dropping a podcast every month, the first Wednesday of every month. So please stay tuned. Definitely give us feedback, leave it below, reach out to us. You can reach us at The I Am Fire on Instagram, on Facebook, or you can email us at theiamfire@gmail.com.
Yes.
Send in some topics that you love for us to talk about. We have And if you didn't see the pilot episode, take a look at the pilot episode. We have a great host. His name is Peter.
That's my cousin.
He's my adopted cousin.
Yes.
I'm gonna just take him too. So, but yeah, Peter, he interviewed us. Ooh, I did get a paper cut. Yeah. But he interviewed us, so you can learn a little bit about Ivory and Frances and how I Am Fire became a thing.
Yeah.
So definitely check out the pilot episode if you have not.
Please.
And yeah, again, stick with us every month on a Wednesday, the first Wednesday of every month. We will be dropping a new podcast.
Okay. So again, thank you for kicking it with us here at the Wellness Kickback, where we are here to unpack, unlearn, and relearn with intention. Again, we are your host, Frances and
Ivory.
And we are with
I Am Fire.
Take care, y'all. Bye.